Good evening, everybody. Shabbat Shalom. My name is Rabbi Ron Goldberg. We are first off kind of curious, are we transmitting? And the good news is, yes, we are. So Fran is the person. So in honor of the 250th birthday of the United States, instead of saying we the people, Fran, you are the person. So welcome, Fran. Welcome, everybody here. We are going to be a little short of a minyan, as all the math majors in the room can point out to me. So we're going to do things a little bit different, a little less formal. In fact, I'm kind of envisioning this being a home ritual Shabbat service, that we're going to do an extended. We should pass out the dessert now, actually, but we'll get. We'll get there. We'll get there. No, we'll get there. We'll get there. But let's earn it. Okay. First of all, what is the first thing we do to welcome Shabbat, to separate Shabbat from the other days of the week? We light candles. Lighting candles is the act of sanctifying time, to separate lahafrid ben chodesh lachol, between the holiness and chol on the weekday. For the Hebrew trivia experts out there, the Hebrew word for commonplace or weekday is chol. Chet Vav Lamed. I know Sabrina's following this. Sabrina, you know what chol is, though? What it actually physically is? No? That's kol. Very good. Very good. Hebrew has a lot of cognates. My wife, who's not listening in right now, so I can say this in relative safety. Hebrew really depends upon that you square words off, because the slight difference in a letter changes the entire meaning of the word. So between chol and kol, two vastly different things. Chol is sand. And so that's why a weekday, which is common, takes its name from, you've heard the phrase Shabbat and chol. Chol is sand. Because if you go to the beach, you pick up a handful of sand. What's the common expression? That you couldn't count the number of grains of sand you have in your hand. There's just too many of them. So sand is commonplace, but Shabbat is kadosh. And what does kadosh mean? Right, no. Go with Sabrina on this one. Set apart, dedicated, separated. When we get married, the phrasing is in tabazo, with this ring, saying it to the lady, at mikudeshetli, you are sanctified to me, but more than by sanctified, it means you are separated from every other woman in the world to me. You are the one who is special to me. And that's the important distinction. It doesn't mean that, we've gone brain dead, that we don't see anymore. Again, my wife isn't watching, so I can get away with this. She'll say to me, we'll be in the mall, and she'll say, did you see the woman in the yellow? A woman with the chest 4 sizes too big, wearing a top 4 sizes too small. And I will say to her, no. And she'll look at me and say, oh. Either you think I'm stupid or you've gone blind. Which one is it? Okay? But the person who is kadosh to you doesn't mean that they're holy to you, though it's a nice idea. It means that they are separate to you from every other person on the planet. That this is that person who is, I think a better word is miyuchad, who is special to you. Shabbat is kadosh. Shabbat is miyuchad. Shabbat is special from every other day of the week. And we observe Shabbat in ways to make it separate. We'll come back to that in a second. So the first thing we do is light candles. What do you do if you don't have candles? Have candles. Let's talk about that for a second. First of all, if your choice is to buy wine or candles, you're supposed to buy the wine, but we'll come back to that. If you don't have candles, you use the electric lights in our world today. Why? Because you're blessing on the light. You're blessing on the separation. So when we separate for Shabbat, we go 1, 2, 3. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu Shabbat. Amen. So how many different ways are there to light candles? And the answer is whatever your bubby taught you, that is the right way. Whatever the senior lady in the household taught you, that is the right way. Some people do the 1, 2, 3. And again, you're from the other side of the river, and that's perfectly okay. That's perfectly fine. One lady I used to work with would say, Baruch Shemo, Baruch Shemo, Baruch Shemo. Blessed is the name, blessed is the name, blessed is the name. I've never seen anybody else in the world do that, but it's what she was taught by her grandmother, and who am I to argue with that? So we welcome in Shabbat first by lighting candles, and then we welcome it by song. Hine matovu manayim shevet achim gam yachat. Hine matovu manayim shevet achim gam yachat. Hine matov shevet achim gam yachat. Hine matov shevet achim gam yachat. We welcome in the Angels of Shabbat on page 13 if you want to follow along with the singing of Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei HaMalachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem LeShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei HaMalachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu Nila Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei HaMalachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seidchem LeShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei HaMalachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Let's go back to that word of Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Let's go back to that word miyuchad, special. How do we make somebody special? Okay, you define the word by using the word. Let's try that again, though. Okay, what do you do that makes Sharon different from every other person on the planet? Oh, Amanda, excuse me. Thank you. Slicha. That person who's special to us, what makes them special? Okay, we have a different example. Let's take human beings out of it. My dad, Zichrono Livracha, taught me this, and dad and mom are always right. What makes this space here holy? What makes this space here holy? Okay, it's separated, but what makes it holy? Yes. How we treat it is what makes it kadosh. Okay? If we all came in here and we put a couple of ashtrays out around the room and we were smoking cigarettes, that would defeat the purpose. Okay? Besides me, does anybody find it just inconceivable to have the Torah scroll opened and a cigarette going at the same time? Okay, why is it inconceivable? Number one, it's a great line from a great movie. Number two, what movie? Thank you, Princess Bride. You get a chocolate, okay? But they had inconceivable. Okay. It does not mean what you think it means. That's right. But in our case, it does, because it's inconceivable to have fire around the Torah scroll. It's inconceivable. We wouldn't put something we consider so sacred in jeopardy, how we treat it. Shabbat is kadosh by how we treat it. What do we do differently on Shabbat to make it different from every other day of the week? Friday night, should be the best meal of the week. Friday night should be the best meal of the week. It should be the meal that's different from every other night of the week. What would be the first symbol of making that meal separate, of making that meal special? Right, challah. Okay, what makes challah special? Eggs, what did you say? Okay, good. So two different things, but they're both getting us to the same place. Number one, ingredients. Okay, you're putting your best efforts into making the ingredients of the challah the best possible. Extra egg for the richness. I add raisins. My wife puts za'atar over the top of it. If you've never had za'atar on challah, you're missing something. It adds to the flavoring. Adds to the flavoring. Neil points out correctly, braiding it. Why braiding it? Number one, it's fun to do. If you've never done it, Brenda, there's something we need to do this year, is have a challah braiding class in here. But the other thing is, braiding it makes it more attractive. You're making it more attractive. And that also enhances the Shabbat by making you're adding to the beauty of Shabbat. The other thing is, along with that idea of braiding it, is we bless it. We make a very specific motzi over it to separate. How many chalot are you supposed to have? Why? Oh, okay. So for some families, one challah is too much, and two. Well, let me rephrase that. That's Alcoholics Anonymous. In my family, if it's just Judy and I, one challah truly we can go through that no problem. And if we have any of our children over, 3 challah probably won't be enough. Okay, so it's all relative. You have 2. Because in the days of wandering in the wilderness, the children of Israel got on Friday before Shabbat. So we honor it that way. Challah should be the best bread you have of the week. We're making the day special. We talk about special Shabbat foods. There are 2 favorites of mine that we make on Shabbat that I maintain are the food of poverty. Number 1, we're not even going to touch that. The first one is... besides me, who here likes gefilte fish? Okay. What goes into gefilte fish? What parts of the fish go into gefilte fish? Because carp is the typical Eastern European answer. You're right about that. Typically get some type of whitefish, and carp is the most common. You grind up everything. You take the entire fish, you grind. Remember those old-fashioned grinders we used to stick it through? That's before your time, okay? Yeah. We'll get to that in a second, but yes. Yeah. You got it. But by and large, you're grinding up everything. You're grinding up everything. The bones and all that is... Okay, that sounds nicer, okay. But you're grinding everything up. Why? Because, well, we'll get to that in a second. You add a little bit of, maybe something to hold together, but maybe a little bit of flour. I used to offer my staff at the Jewish Home, my dietary staff, I would put a $10 bill and a plate of gefilte fish on a tabletop and say, anybody who takes a bite gets $10. My money was perfectly safe. Nobody ever took me up on it. If you didn't grow up with gefilte fish, it's not a very appealing looking product, is it? Particularly the stuff that comes out of a jar. If you add enough white horseradish, it's delicious. But that's another discussion. The other food we eat on Shabbat. Remember, you're not supposed to cook on Shabbat, okay? So you put cholent, you put something into a slow cooker or a crock pot, and you let it go overnight. What happens when you what do you put into cholent? Beans, vegetables, potatoes, some liquid. I add kishka because I like junk food, so extra kishka always goes in there. What did you put in there? Potato, absolutely. Sweet potato and regular potato both go in there. Now, all types of beans go in there. Carrots go in there. Absolutely, kishka goes in there. Absolutely. In fact, in my house, if I have my way, it's extra kishka, and Judy fights me on that. Kishkas literally mean intestines. Okay, so you take when you make sausage, you have the casing. You take basically in the old country they would use the intestines, but in our country we tend to use some type of vegetable based casing. You stuff it with some flour, some oil, some onion. What am I leaving off? Okay, and you stuff it and you cook it, and it's deliciousness. You put a little schmaltz, some chicken fat in there. It is bad for you. It's bad for you. It's delicious. Chicken. We'll get the next one in a second. So you put all this into the cholent. You let it cook overnight. What happens when you let it cook overnight? And it reduces. All the moisture reduces out, and all the flavors get concentrated, and it is delicious. But both kishka, cholent, gefilte fish are all the foods of poverty. They're all the foods of poverty, and it's something that I think we tend to ignore. But these are not the foods. These are not the foods you make because you're really well off. These are the foods you make because you can't waste food. Who likes simmus? More Ashkenazic food, okay? You know the phrase, don't make a big simmus out of that? Okay, we'll get there. Simmus, again, is a vegetable dish, typically carrots. Thank you. That's the recipe I'm most familiar with. So it tends to be a sweeter dish. Carrots, raisins, prunes, sweet potatoes, sometimes some orange juice if you're from a rich family, and you cook it, and it's supposed to be sweet in taste. I like it a lot, but again, it's something you make because you can't waste food. I grew up with taking challah, some mashed potatoes, and then for a little bit of extra flavor, you pour some chicken schmaltz over the top of that. Okay, Neil knows what I'm talking about. He's already smiling. You can taste it, right? Okay, you're about to say to me, Rabbi Ron, what is chicken schmaltz? Chicken schmaltz is actually a redundant statement now that I think about it. Schmaltz literally means rendered fat. Okay, in the entertainment industry, or you see, oh, that's really schmaltzy. It's like really Oh, okay, they're nice. Thank you. Overdone. You know, the officiant hamming it up. Another way of putting it. Jewish people don't ham things up. Yeah. But again, chopped liver is the same thing. We're back to the food of poverty. You're taking the liver, you're grinding it up, you're adding some onion, you might add a hard-boiled egg, you're adding some chicken, some schmaltz, and it's absolutely, and it's delicious, right? Is it good for you? No, like my arteries are hardening just thinking about it. But again, these are all the Ashkenazi foods we grew up with. And they all represent the food of both poverty, because you wouldn't dare waste food, but also it's the foods you saved for Shabbat. Because back to point of origin, to make Shabbat special, you have these foods. Last one on foods, maybe. This happens to me occasionally. Judy gives me a shopping list. I get to the store, I come back, and I forgot to buy the kosher wine. We've got to make Kiddush. The age-old question, what do you got in the kitchen to make Kiddush with? Water, vodka, orange juice. What do you use? Orange juice? Okay, go back to the point of origin. Kadosh versus chol. Special versus commonplace. So water you can eliminate off the bat, very common. Now between vodka and orange juice, I would come down on the side of vodka. That is something a little bit more unusual. You're not going to say Borei Pri Agaf, and you're not going to bless the fruit of the vine because potatoes grow on the ground. You change the blessing a little bit. But I think you would go that way. What would make the day most special? And these are the things that make the day special. The meal, the gathering, the songs. These are the things we do to make the day look differently. Oh. Oh, okay. Couple of different competing number one priorities here. Okay. The matzah that is kosher for Pesach, even if you're eating it year round, people who do it year round typically stop a couple of days before Passover. So when they have it at Passover, it tastes special again. So you stop and take a break. Okay. There are people who enjoy matzah year round. I consider them misguided, but that's a whole nother discussion. I do not, to borrow from Dr. Seuss, another finer yid, I do not like it in a car. I do not like it in a box. Matzah doesn't go nowhere. And matzah balls, again, I keep trying it, and it just goes nowhere. So I save it for the next person who will enjoy it, and I'm perfectly good with that. It doesn't work for me. These are just the Ashkenaz traditions. We start getting into our Sephardic friends also make their version of cholent. It's called HaYam. It's very similar ingredients, but it tends to be a little bit spicier, as does most Sephardic cooking. Shabbat, dinner. Did we miss anything with dinner? Oh, this is something Neil and I were talking about earlier. Friday night would typically then be a basari, a meat meal, because meat is more elevated, more fancy, more luxurious dining. What's the challenge with that in our modern time in particular? Okay, expense is one thing, but it always was. Meat was always expensive. No, typically it does not. Okay. Okay. Right, milk and meat. So your best desserts are milk based, are dairy based. Hold that thought for a second. Okay. The separation between meat and dairy, if you're a traditional Ashkenaz family, is 6 hours. Okay, that's not helpful. Okay. So a lot of people have parov desserts. What's the problem with parov desserts? They're bland. They're not very good. What did you say, Brenda? There's no milk product in them, so therefore they're lacking. You are very generous. Okay, it's a talent. It's a talent. So my does not do parov dessert. Does not. When we do dessert here, when she's cooking here, it is always chalavi. I promise you, it's always going to be chalavi. We had a shiva call that we did earlier in the week, and she made these chocolate chip peanut butter cookies, and she clearly labeled them as chalavi. So for people who had had a fleishik dinner and who were observant would know this particular dessert, as tempting as it is, just be aware of that. Going from milk to meat, how long do you have to wait? Typically about 30 minutes, because you want to have a separation. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's talk about that for a second. Neil, I'm going to expand on that. So number one, the first thing is, what was your family tradition? So if your family is from Holland, they don't wait that 6 hours between meat and milk. They go about 30 minutes, okay? Even in the more stringent families going from milk to meat, the idea being is that milk doesn't leave a residue in your mouth, or at least it goes away much faster. So I've never heard of a 0 waiting period, to be honest with you, but typically they'll do some type of separation in the 20 to 30 minute range. Very, very common. Neil's next point, it depends upon your family tradition. It depends upon where your family is from. And as you pointed out, Sabrina, who is the rabbi who you're getting advice from? One of the things we always are taught in Pirkei Avot, we're told, acquire a friend and make yourself a rabbi. Why make yourself a rabbi? Because you should only have one master teacher who you follow. If you get too much input, definitely so. Rabbi Adam Greenwald, if he says the answer is blue, that's generally good enough for me, so far as that goes. But different values. So the other thing too, let me just put this one out there. I go to somebody's house for Shabbat, and they'll typically say to me, "Rabbi, what should we do first?" And I'm like, you know what? Your home, your rules. I will go with whatever we choose to do here will totally work for me. You want to do that definitely, but the being a good guest is a very important thing also. Hospitality is good and being a good guest is good. Shabbat is all about that separation between every other day of the week and today. Can you turn lights on and off on Shabbat? Okay, why not? Or a spark? So the running debate in Judaism is light, is electricity fire, or is it water? And this is the reason for the debate goes like this. If electricity is fire, then you're creating. Okay? So can you turn water on and off on Shabbat? Why? Very good, Neil. Neil, it's not fire, but to the larger sense, it's not fire. You're not creating, and more. The philosophy is water is a flow, that it's always there. All you're doing is opening the tap and turning it on or closing the tap. Yeah. It's funny you say that because I come from the school of thought that follows pretty much the same way, that electricity is a flow like water, and you'll see in it's not a growing group, but it's a minority view that electricity is a flow, not like so. We'll get to driving in a second. Okay. So I come to school of thought it's okay to turn lights on and off. One of the things you'll see in Israel, and you'll see sometimes like in New York, I haven't seen it here in LA, a Shabbat elevator. Anybody ever been on a Shabbat elevator? Yeah. What does it do? What does it do, Brenda? Right. You get on and it goes all the way up, all the way back down. You don't touch any. No, it's set. But here's the mishigas. You know the word mishigas? The mishigas with that. My roomie in Jerusalem said to me the first weekend we were there, she says to me, "Can you take the light bulb out of the refrigerator?" Okay, I could see where she was going. You're going to open up the door, the light turns on, right? And if I take the light bulb out, the light doesn't go on. So therefore, she's not using electricity. All right, I need a handyman or an electric thinker to answer this one. When you open up the refrigerator door, what happens? And? Because? So it kicks on the thermostat, right? The thermostat registers that the temperature has gone up, therefore it needs to lower it. And I would say to Natasha, what's the difference? The light's turning on or the thermostat? They're both automatic. You are not doing anything, but you're opening that door. So it's fascinating the things we can talk ourselves into. When it comes to Shabbat observance, I lean towards common sense. Is turning a light on and off the same as making fire? I don't think it is. And particularly in our day and age where we live, is turning the light on work? Not particularly. Okay, in 2026, Neil, your point is valid. Your point is valid. I'll see that. So if somebody is in a stringent family, growing up in a stringent environment, you do not turn lights on and off on Shabbat. Whatever light is on when you light candles is going to stay on for the duration, right? Whatever light is off is staying off for the duration. Okay? But I would maintain that that's not the same thing as work would have been. Making fire back in the day was work. You're sitting there striking the flint or whatever, trying to create. I get it. In the world I live in, turning a light on and off is not work, not in the same way. So, oh, yep. I thought that would come up. Sabrina, what did you want to say? And I'm going to come back to the toilet paper. It is, which means skilled labor. Melacha means skilled labor, and one of the things that is skilled labor that is listed as skilled labor is tearing. Okay. So Neil brings up the classic question. You'll see families will pre-tear toilet paper. Here's my test, and this goes back to my Natasha question about the refrigerator. There's a rabbinic theory of la'alot b'kedusha. La'alot, let's look from the word aliyah, to go up in holiness. Neil, in your house, well, let me say, if I'm talking to Mrs. Blue here, I might say to her, does tearing toilet paper and pre-setting it, does that in your feelings, in your world, does that increase holiness? And if the answer is you start giggling, clearly the answer is no. But if the person says to me, yes, I feel like it helps me make Shabbat different or special, okay. It's not an observance that I follow, but I get where they're coming from. But my first question would be, is the practice that you're doing la'alot b'kedusha? Is it helping you elevate holiness? And if the answer is no, then you need to consider what it is you're doing. Neil, you and I were talking earlier about kashrut and things that we observe, okay? And people here have heard me say it many, many times, I miss Tommy's hamburgers, okay? And people say to me, you could go through the drive-through. Okay, there's two problems with that. Problem B is in the world I live in with my mazel, somebody would take a picture of me. Okay, that would be problem number one. But what's the bigger problem? Yes, I know. And that's what'll bother me. There are times when I'll do something, and I want to at least know that I've made the choice. That I've consciously made a choice. I don't want to transgress without being, by accident. If I do it, at least I want to be able to own it. So that to me is the biggest thing. Is when we practice, Neil, it becomes what does the practice do for us, and we're doing it with kavanah, with intentionality, and is it bringing more holiness into my life and into my observance? Listen, I still do for Yom Kippur. I do kaporot. I don't use a chicken. I use coins. But I still do kaporot because for me, it brings in holiness. Okay, so we'll talk about this more as we get later into the summer. The symbolic transferring of sin for Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. So we do here as a community, we do a tashlik service, where we cast our sins onto the water. So we go to Brenda's house and we throw our sins onto the water. So after we do that, don't go to Brenda's for a couple of days. It's full of sin. But no. So we symbolically throw our sins into the water, okay? And they're cast away. It's symbolic. But another one that's very common, particularly in the Orthodox world, is to take a chicken. And they would wave it over their head. And the incantation basically says, "Zekapertena, this is my sacrifice." We're transferring our sins to the bird. We take the bird and we shecht it, which means we slaughter it. And you're supposed to give the meat to tzedakah, to a family who's in need. Okay, and you symbolically transfer it. I don't use a chicken. I use 18 cents. Was what I was taught growing up. So we'd use the coin, we'd shake over our head 3 times. My father would teach us, you use 8 cents, you give to tzedakah, it should be a charitable year, and you use the other 10 cents to buy a candy bar, it should be a sweet year, which shows you how long ago this was, okay? So I get that, Neil, that there are things we do that are symbolic, there are things we do because they have meaning to us, and I get that. And I keep going back to square one, though. If it doesn't have meaning to you, you need to evaluate what it is you're doing. You need to look really, really hard at that. That would be my best answer there. Other thoughts about Shabbat observance? We've covered food. I'm sorry? Oh, thank you. Driving is interesting. Is driving work? And we can go round and round on that. It's not making the car is a machine. I don't know that that the machine needs a day off the same way that a human being or a beast of burden would, but we try to give it a rest. Is it creating fire? Yeah, a combustion engine, there's no good way around that. We're creating a spark which causes a controlled explosion that drives the pistons. No good way around that. In the Orthodox world, the answer is no, you don't drive on Shabbat. Unless pekuach nefesh, it's a matter of life and death. Okay, so you need to get somebody to the emergency room, you do it. Remind me about pekuach nefesh. We'll circle back to that in a second. There's something that popped in my mind. I drive on Shabbat. Okay, clearly. The conservative movement allows driving on Shabbat to go to shul. In your ideal world, you're driving to the closest shul. It's not like I'm driving from West Hills to Ventura and I'm passing 6 other shuls to get here. But the idea being you can drive to shul. Why? A lot of different reasons. Number one, Shabbat should be celebrated in community. Okay, we're a social people. We're social animals. Celebrate in community. Be with your community. It's not like we're living in the shtetl where everybody lives within a half mile of each other. It's not like living when I lived in Jerusalem. There's a synagogue every couple of blocks. That's not the world I live in. I live in a world where the nearest synagogue at a little over a mile is walking distance, but it's still not next door. So we go from there. I said, remind me about something about driving. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so you would say, so like for example, our friend Rabbi Light will and his wife will pedal here on Yom Tov. I think because because you're not driving, I think that's the simplest answer, that you're not creating work. Neil? No. So let's take this in steps. Well, actually, you know why he doesn't pedal on Yom Kippur? I've never asked him, but if I had to put a dollar out there and put money on the pass line, I think he'd say to me, you know, when I pedal, I get thirsty. You know, I'm gonna be thirsty enough on Yom Kippur. Absolutely. Some say the swimming. Yes. Yeah, because there's no more light. Yeah. You could play chess. Okay. Because you're making the day different from every other day. Okay. And I get the kavanah, I get the intention there. And there is something definitely to that. I totally agree. Some aspects of that are outside of my practice. I would just leave it that way. There was something you said I wanted to address. I forgot what it is now. I should have done it then. Oh well. Oh, Pekuach Nefesh. Okay, to save a life. To save a life, Pekuach Nefesh Dochet Shabbat. To save a life supersedes all your Shabbat rules. So there's several long discussions both in the Mishnah and in the Tosefta, which is another aspect of Mishnaic studies, where they discuss, like, if you see somebody drowning, what are you supposed to do? Right. Well, but it takes them a while to get there. They have a whole discussion about it, and somebody actually says, well, you should go to the Beit Din. You should go to the rabbinic court and ask if it's okay to save them. And it's like, again, a practical consideration, and you're not wrong. Okay, and this is where that thought goes. So Pekuach Nefesh, this idea of saving life. So let's go back to cooking. Mrs. Blue here is dreadfully ill. What is Jewish penicillin? That's right. Can you shek the chicken to make chicken soup for Mrs. Blueby, who is dreadfully ill? Sabrina says yes. You say, why not? Neil? Okay. Yeah. The answer is yes. You want her to get better. Shabbat is not about making the person suffer. So we want them to get better. So definitely we would do that. We're going to make Kiddush. I want to do announcements. I want to read our Yortzeit list. I don't have a minion, so I can't do this, but I want to at least acknowledge the names. And then we will adjourn for refreshments. Borei Priya Goffin. Ruchat Adonai Elohim Melech Haolam. Asher Kishano B'Mitzvotav. Paratzavanu. Shabbat Kodsho. B'Varo Bratzon. Hinkilanu. Zikaron L'Maaseh Bereshit. Yom Tefillah. B'Mikrei Kodesh. Zefer Litziat Mitzrayim. Ivanu B'Charta. Hanu Kidashta, Nikol Hamim, Shabbat Kodshecha, Yahava Uratzon, Nikoltanu, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. How many different versions of Kiddush are there? How many different versions of Kiddush are there? There's a whole bunch, but also on Friday night, there's Ashkenazi Kiddush, Sephardic Kiddush. Sephardic is a little bit shorter. My friends, welcome to our Shabbat services. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining. Everybody who came here live and in person, I am grateful that you came out to join us and to help in our learning for Shabbat this evening. Some quick upcoming announcements. Tomorrow morning, we are on Zoom at 10 a.m. Will be a discussion and study session honoring the 250th birthday of the United States of America. Friday, July 17th, Erev Shabbat services right here, live and live streamed at 7:30. Saturday, July 18th, 10 a.m. right here, live and live stream. We will be honoring, God willing, Alma Baranke's 100th birthday. So she was born in 1926? Wow. We'll talk about that too. Wednesday, July 22nd, in the evening at 7 p.m. on Zoom, 7 p.m. on Zoom on July 22nd, Tesha B'Av services. We'll do that on Zoom together. Musar classes with Fran, 7 p.m. on Thursday, July 9th and 30th. My life cycle class, Wednesday, the 15th at 7 p.m. on Zoom. We'll be talking about, was it Frank Sinatra who sang the song, Love and Marriage? Love and Marriage, Love and Marriage. Didn't you ever watch Married with Children? We're going to work on that. Okay. Just so. We're going to talk about that. Annual congregation meeting is going to be on July 19. That's a Sunday at 11 a.m. In the Migdal Or, we saw the applications for your apples and honey reservations. Get those in early. Birthdays. This week we're going to observe Morit Resnick on the 9th, Elaine Hennig on the 14th, Donna Gustafson on the 15th of July. Oh, and Brenda on the 16th. We'll get everybody else at the second service. Again, save the dates coming up. Oh, anniversaries. Is it Seidel? Seidel and Bernie Bubman? Okay. July 3rd today, Mazal Tov. How many years? Anybody know? All right, Mazal Tov. Wow. Again, save the dates. July 18th, the special Kiddush honoring Alma for her 100th birthday. July 19th, our annual congregational meeting, 11 a.m. on Zoom. Erev Shabbat services, the 22nd at 7 p.m. Sunday, August the 9th, installation of Rabbi Ron Goldberg at noon right here. We recall the following year. Oh, yep. Everybody should have gotten their invitations by now. I would be delighted to see you there. Respond RSVP to Brenda directly. Following your tests, we recall this week. Kimberly Gosch, daughter-in-law of Stephen Gosch. Natty Helprin, mother of Kenny Helprin. Rabbi Gerald Hennig, husband of Elaine Hennig. Wow, Zikronam Libracha. Fanny Silberman, mother of Judy Margolis. Zikronam Libracha. May their memories be for a blessing. Say amen. So earlier today, the 4th of July is also this is the 50th anniversary of Operation Thunderbolt. Who remembers what happened 50 years ago today? Neil? Entebbe. 50 years ago today. Okay. Fast after Yonatan Netanyahu. So what's fascinating is that we recall the rescue of the hostages from Kampala Airport in Entebbe in Uganda. What fascinated me, and I didn't realize this 50 years ago, I didn't realize it, I didn't think about it, but Sabrina sent me an article that kind of highlights this. The United Nations took the matter up afterwards. You know what the issue was they were discussing? Did Israel violate the sovereignty of Uganda by rescuing the hostages? Idi Amin Dada's dictatorship, leaving all that aside. Sadness, travesty, but we're grateful for those who served and recovered those who had been kidnapped. To rescue a hostage, Matir Asurim, to free the bound, is considered a great mitzvah. My friends, Shabbat Shalom. Drive safely on this 250th anniversary of birthday of the United States. We'll see you at 10 a.m. tomorrow on Zoom. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Also counts.